Good afternoon, and welcome to BBC Two.
Hello and welcome to Back to the 80s, the podcast that travels back through time in a rose-tinted DeLorean. It's me again, after all this time. Dreadwind, aka Glenn, going to nick somebody away in the old nostalgia TARDIS and whisk him away back to the era of, Technicolor spaceships that weren't Star Wars, even though they're being made because of Star Wars. That kind of thing. And also the era of Hugh Hefner being alive and stuff, which he isn't now. Apparently, he is no longer with us. Mileage varies on how happy you are about that. Apparently, the internet is very divided. But he was 91, and values dissonance sometimes gets in the way. Name a 91-year-old that doesn't objectify women and has caveman attitudes. There you go on that one, really. That's my view. But joining me this week is somebody who I'm sure has views on that, but we won't really go into those because it's not about Hugh Hefner. It's somebody who hasn't been on here before. We did do a test run at one point, but the sound on it wasn't great. The noise wasn't great. So this is officially her first official appearance on Back to the 80s. And we're going to be talking about something cool because we were going to talk about something else, but it doesn't matter. We're going to be talking about something cool. It is my very good friend, Claire Vaughan. Hello, Claire.
Hello, Glenn.
How are you?
I'm all right. Yeah, I've finished work early and I started drinking, so it's kind of prime time for me, I think, because you got me on a good day.
Great. Well, that's good to hear. First off, because people don't know you, kindly do introduce yourself and sort of what your 80s-ness comes from.
Well, I work for Chapter Cinema, so Chapter in Cardiff. We're this massive kind of 2 screens cinema with a gallery and a theatre, and it's a really great place to come. But yeah, I work particularly in the cinema, and we're all massive 80s fans. In the office, it's not exactly a secret. We're really into our sort of video nasties. So we're massive horror fans, we're massive sci-fi fans. We're all quite into music as well. You know, there's a bit of a mix in there, but we sort of sometimes have to rein it back because it's like, well, we have to give to all of our audience, but at the same time, anytime we get the chance to show stuff we really, really love like that, then it's all free for all. So yeah. That's the sort of thing I do. My 80s thing, I've got a particularly really, really good memory of when I was a kid. I don't know if it's rose-tinted glasses, like you said, but it's I've got like a really strong recall for some of that stuff. Whether it's stuff that we'll talk about, I don't know. It might be that's my complete blind spot. But when you suggested the things that we're talking about tonight, it was like, well, that hits my complete 80s button. That's you've pretty much hit all the things I love in one film. So, but I won't ruin it for later. Let you make the announcements.
Oh, I'll make it
there we go.
Now. We'll be talking about Flash Gordon.
Yay! Flash Gordon.
Because, yeah, sure, why not, eh?
Yeah.
I realise that for long-time listeners, we have talked about this before, but it wasn't that popular that time, and it's hard to get enthusiastic about something that other people aren't enthusiastic about. I'm assured Claire is enthusiastic about it.
Yes,
so
well, it's really interesting. I mean, we'll talk more about it in a bit, but that kind of era, it's funny because I was thinking the other day about sort of Battlestar Galactica and stuff like that, and there was a little group of stuff that obviously with Star Wars, but apparently Flash Gordon was in pre-production, like well before Star Wars. But there was like a gathering of all these amazing sci-fi things all at the same time. So like growing up in the 80s, there was just this wave of kind of fantastical things. So yeah, I think that's, it's gonna be good, our chat, I think.
I hope so. But we'll find out, won't we? We'll find out. What have you been up to this week? I'll ask you the same we ask everybody. What we've been up to this week?
Yeah, this week. Well, it's we put up our friends. Our friends are in this fantastic band called Sacred Paws. So at the weekend, we sort of put them up. They've got. Funny enough, we were talking about the 80s with them as well because they've got. It's sort of like an Afrobeat band, I suppose. I'm not very good at describing music particularly, but they've got a real kind of like sort of ska flavour, I suppose, to their music. And Rachel,
kind of like two-tone, is it?
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. So, but I was having a chat with Rachel, and she's in quite a lot of bands actually, and she was sort of saying about how she gets kind of a lot of stick sometimes when she sort of describes her music as kind of almost ska or two-tone, and they're like, no, don't say that. That's really uncool. And she's like, but that's kind of what it is. And we sort of talk about how it's really strange how that's happened. And we kind of whilst we were chatting about it, we got to the root of the fact that maybe it's because younger people, which they usually play to, I'm saying I'm in my late 30s. She's a little bit younger than me, but people who are kind of like in the early 20s, their experience of ska was terrible new metal. And that's where it's come from. They, since they hear the word ska, they think
Real Big Fish and No Doubt.
Yeah. Or, worse than that, even. Worse than
I don't think you can get worse than No Doubt.
But yeah, that sort of thing. So, like, when the young people hear the word ska or two-tone or something like that, they just think of this awful American shite from the sort of the late 90s, early 2000s. And
and not the special.
Yeah, and she's not thinking of that. She's thinking of stuff from the
Level Staples.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Selector.
The
specials, all that kind of thing.
She says she doesn't understand why it's kind of seen as not being very cool. She's like, yeah, it's really cool. And they're like, no, it's really not cool. So it was interesting actually. Yeah, we were sort of talking about that, about how sort of generational things can go out of favour. But her band's fairly trendy, so maybe it'll come back. Who knows?
Just by saying the word trendy, you've already made it uncool.
Yeah, exactly. I've already shown the fact that I'm in my late 30s.
Yeah. You've used an old person's word.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, fellow kids, what do you think of the word trendy? I'm going to make something trendy now.
Oh, I make something cool and trendy and hip.
Yeah.
It's fab.
Yeah. Sick. Isn't it sick? It's going to be sick, bruh. It's going to be sick.
Mint.
Mint.
It's going to be mint.
Yeah, mint.
Wicked.
I don't know.
Ace.
Yeah. It's going to be Brill. No.
We're old.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else you've been up to this week?
Yeah, just working. We've got loads of festivals. We've got and Japanese Animation Festival coming up this weekend. So, finishing off the bits and bobs. There's a film, I don't think it's 80s, it might be very early 80s, but it's their classic one, they always do a classic, is Belladonna of Sadness this year. Are you familiar with Belladonna of Sadness, Glenn?
Very vaguely.
Yeah, it's massively pervy. Speaking of, you talk about Hugh Hefner. It's kind of like almost like a hippie dream of sex, right. But like, there's like a sort of talking penis in it. It's kind of brilliant and terrible.
Is it like Legend of the Overfiend?
Yeah,
terrible,
it's just like, I don't know, like basically this woman's trying to have sex or something. I can't remember exactly what the plot is. I haven't seen it for a long time. But yeah, this woman's like, you know, kind of, she's a virgin, she's not had to show how to have sex. And then sort of all these kind of like things grow out in her head of what she thinks sex is going to be. And the little kind of like, and it's really quite X-rated as a film.
Well, yeah.
With cartoons. But yeah, and there's, you know, suddenly I've like all the sort of like vaguely erotic stuff in there. Suddenly this little kind of, hello, little cartoon penis pops up and starts chatting to her. And she sort of has this chatting, you know, sort of like chatting about sex with this cartoon penis. So it's half like completely like absurd and ridiculous and silly and funny. But it's also meant to be quite sexy. So it's a really odd thing. But I've never seen it on a big screen. I don't remember the last time I saw it. It was a long, long time ago. A sort of dodgy VHS copy, I think. So it's, yeah, it's going to be interesting seeing what our audience think of that.
Yeah. It'd be even more interesting if you showed Legend of the Overfiend directly after.
Yeah.
That's just ruin everything.
I'm always glad that we can't. So, yeah.
I think most people are glad that they can't show Legend of the Overfiend.
Yeah.
But it's the official anime of Back to the 80s. I decided a long time ago.
Oh, really?
It's because I'm not a fan of it. It's that I guess it's because in the early 90s, all I heard from nerd mates of mine was Akira.
Yeah.
You've got to see Akira. And like most people who sit down and watch Akira, I sat there for about 2 hours and went, huh? Because if you don't have a working knowledge of Japanese politics during the late 1980s, you're not going to know what the fuck is going on.
Aww.
It's not something you can just sit down and watch. I think you have to have read the manga to really, truly appreciate. You can look at it and say it's pretty,
yeah,
but you're not going to understand what the hell's going on.
Yeah, but then sometimes that's nice. There's a film I had, actually, we talk about sort of 80s memories. The first videotape I ever owned was we got it from the electrical shop, because that's what you did in like 1983 or whatever it was. And it was called Space Firebird. And it was this, and it is quite obscure, because I'm not suggesting you're going to know it, because, you know, when you just think, oh, it's in the video shop, everybody's going to know what it is. But I think they must have just randomly given it to our you know, our electrical shop in Cornwall, and nobody else had it. And it was really strange. The first 20 minutes, there's no dialogue at all, and it's all about this boy that's brought up with a robot. And they go out to find this mythic phoenix to kind of restore the earth. But it's kind of like this anti-capitalist message, environmental message and stuff like that. And it's like, and I watched it because I had it on VHS, and the VHS eventually, you know, after lots and lots of use, did, you know, grind down. And I hadn't seen it for a long time, and a friend found it at like an Australian copy a couple of years ago. And I watched it, I was like, I can't believe that a 4-year-old kid was like, this was their favourite film. Like, this is really quite obscure. It's really odd.
I think I've seen it.
Oh.
I'm sure I saw it when I was a kid. I'm just looking at it now. It's called, in British, or in English, it's called Phoenix 2772.
Yeah, 2772. Yeah.
That's it. Or Hinotori 2772 Aino Cosmozon.
Yeah.
Cosmozon.
Yeah.
I think I've seen that.
Well,
I think
it was amazing. I mean, it's quite an interesting film, and I'm really sad that it's not one that's like well known, because I think it is quite, you know, like I say, seeing it as an adult, it's quite an interesting thing. But again, like, I don't know whether if I was even if I was a bit older, if I was 10, if I'd have sat through it. But because it was quite literally, there was like 2 videotapes in the shop. It was just that's the thing we're going to watch over and over again. You know, parents bought it, and that's what we just had.
Well, just to let you know, Claire.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube.
Is it now? Is it?
It's on YouTube.
Wow.
I feel at some point a commentary coming on.
Oh, well. Yeah, we could do.
We certainly could do that, because that would be very odd, very strange, because I must have been 5 when I saw that. I'm certain I wasn't very old. It's one of those sort of films I recollect as a kid seeing, like, Watership Down.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it many times in my life, but I do remember sitting down as a kid and being horrified by that film. because it's not a kids film at all. But they did in the early 80s and sort of up until about the mid 80s when Akira sort of appeared. It's a cartoon. It's for kids, right? And it's like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
And it's one of those weird cultural things that in Japan, it's never really been for kids.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But then a lot of my Akira friends were older. They were really into Japanese stuff. So the people I knew who were really into Akira were kind of got into it when they were like 16. Something.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I can honestly say I was watching anime when I was about 5 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember Battle of the Planets.
Yeah.
If nothing else.
Yeah.
The cartoon that had most of it cut out.
Yeah. Well, actually, I mean, a lot of those 80s cartoons, they were all like because that was always the fun bit. You saw, like, as the credits were rolling, of course you had to watch credits because it was the 80s and it wasn't like, cut off. And you'd see like these streams of names in like, and they were all, a lot of them were sort of the Japanese names, weren't they? Huge studios.
Yeah. Well, obviously you've got the American ones that ported and their work out to Korea and Japan, and then you had the animes that were cut and shut and sent over here, like Battle of the Planets was. I mean, that's from 1975.
Yeah.
It's very old.
Yeah.
And then you had the bits with 7 put in because it wasn't for kids originally.
Yeah.
But then you get things like Robotech and that kind of thing as well, which was Mazinger. That was one as well. And there's loads of them that Haynes Saban got his hands on them way before Power Rangers. He was porting Japanese cartoons over here.
Yeah.
So he's been at that for a long time.
Yeah.
And Power Rangers is the one that made him billions. I think it's safe to say.
Yeah. Have you seen the new movie, by the way? I haven't seen it. I just saw the trailer.
I haven't seen it. My someone I work with, their little boy, is really into Power Rangers, and they took him to see it, and he said, "No, I love it. It's great."
Oh, okay.
So it's like, but he really likes the old stuff as well.
Yeah.
So I think he just likes Power Rangers.
Yeah.
But I've heard good reports. I've heard good stuff mainly.
I must admit, I've seen the trailer with like on my own in something, and then I went with my partner, and I was like, I bet you never guess what this film's for. Like, as soon as the trailer started on the screen, I was like, you'll never guess what it is. And then it was like, because the trailer is like a couple of minutes of like, oh, it's some kids, and it looked quite edgy, and like, oh, what's they going to discover? And then right at the end, it's like, Power Rangers, no way! It's just like way away from the Dayglow Power Rangers that we know and love. It's really, but yeah, I didn't actually see the film. But yeah, no, I mean, it's all fair play to Power Rangers. They've got a lovely thing going on. It was a little bit. I kind of missed Power Rangers. I didn't really watch a lot of Power Rangers, but it always looked like this would be great hangover TV if I was hungover at the time when it was on.
It is worth a watch. It's first sort of American shows, because Bulk and Skull, if it's worth it for them alone, the two bullies in inverted commas that are because they're hilarious. It's also worth watching the original Japanese as well, because it couldn't be much further away from what the American was.
Yeah.
Because in Japan, they're all evolved from dinosaurs, which is where the dinosaur stuff comes
Oh, of course. Yeah. I've read that somewhere. Yeah.
And Rita Repulsa, murdering fuck. She just murders everything, which she just totally doesn't do in the American version for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird. I quite like it. Some of the Japanese stuff is mental, and it's great. Because the Japanese are slightly mental.
Well, the thing is about this thing, the idea that it's not for kids. I mean, that's something that we're starting to get a little bit of now. This idea of like comic book movies, they're not necessarily for kids, although they're kind of, you could argue about the Marvel ones, like what they're doing, like but it's really hard for us as an exhibitor, as a cinema, and we want to play sort of anime and obviously Studio Ghibli and things like that, and then you get parents who just sort of like turn up and want to switch off and don't want to have to choose a film, and they just see the fact that it's a cartoon. They're like, oh, this isn't for my kids. Why isn't it a Disney film? And it's a really strange thing. Like, people don't actually read like what films they're going to go and see or whatever. They just they just like see a cartoon and they assume it's for children. And things are starting to change a little bit, and I think Studio Ghibli's really helped with that. But it's still kind of like this idea that, I mean, the Japanese have always been making, manga for, adults, and
no, it's an adult art.
Yeah.
Essentially, And you do have kids anime. But, you know, like Pokemon and a lot of cartoons we saw as kids and that, they do make it, but it's a much broader art form than just cartoons are for children and that's all it. A lot of the Disney stuff, I wouldn't show kids. I wouldn't show a young child Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It's terrifying. And to be fair, it was never meant to be shown to small children.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
Along with you go back far enough to Betty Boop.
Yeah.
Those cartoons were not meant for children.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's just with the codes that they brought in, where the studios had to clean their act up because the Catholics and then the evangelicals didn't like it. Nothing changes. That came in and Betty Boop had to clean up her act. Yeah. But before that, cartoons very much were not for children.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, same with like comic books. I mean, you're thinking about. I mean, obviously, you know, the Wonder Woman, which we could talk about, we won't talk about now because we'll both be here for hours.
Because I will have a massive rant about James Cameron spectacularly missing the point of the Wonder Woman film.
Love him.
Oh, mercy, just a sex subject.
James Cameron.
She was pretty. But she was pretty. She was very pretty. It's like, yes, she's horrendously pretty.
Yeah.
But that's Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
She's not human.
She's the most perfect person in the whole world.
She's a god.
Yeah.
She's Zeus's daughter. You fucking idiot.
She's not meant to look like Kathy Burke as much as I love Kathy Burke. But she's meant to look like Gal Gadot.
Well, yeah, she's not Bella Emberg.
Yeah.
She ain't Blunder Woman.
You know, but, yeah, no, it's a strange one, isn't it? But,
I just missed the point. I think it's because she's not Linda Hamilton. I think that's why he's pissed off.
Yeah. I would love to read, I mean, she'll never do it, but I'd love to read sort of like combine Linda Hamilton, Catherine Bigelow, like kind of autobiography about James Cameron. I think those, you know, the fact that he went through like those two fantastic women, they both were like, fuck off and left him.
You're a dick.
Yeah.
That and the fact that he's bringing out Avatar 2 to 5 when nobody's asked for Avatar 2 to 5. But no, please, James, tell the woman who made over $1 billion how to make a Wonder Woman film, please. Yeah. I think he's doing it just so. See, look, this is mansplaining.
Yeah.
me telling Claire about something that she doesn't know about is not mansplaining. James Cameron telling a woman who's made $1 billion with a film, that's mansplaining.
Yeah. Oh dear, but yeah. So like I said, we won't talk about Wonder Woman. But
no, we won't.
All those comics, like the William Marston version of Wonder, you know, the original Wonder Woman's, you know, so racy,
the pervy ones,
and like kind of the idea of their, you know, and of course the comic codes, they kind of came down on that, didn't they? As well, it's like, there's a lot of bondage in this. He's like, yeah, there is.
It's about 90% bondage.
Yeah.
I think because William Moulton Marston liked being tied up by ladies. But then again, he did have an unconventional relationship, didn't he?
Yeah, I'm really. They're doing a film about him actually. I'm really looking forward to it. Rebecca Hall is playing one of his wives. I can't remember. I think it's his first wife, or you know, his wife.
Primary.
Yeah, as opposed to.
Because they stayed together when he died, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think they did. I think it was just like they had this kind of like poly relationship, the three of them. And then I think there might have been some other people involved at other points, but generally the three of them were the solid three, and they just,
I think you're right.
And then the two women stayed together at the end, you know, after he died. So it's amazing,
which is cool. And they raised kids, and they were a very happy family. Apparently,
he was quite happy. So fine, but yeah, I mean, so comics there was always this, and it's funny, and not to skip ahead too much, but when I was, I had a quick look at Flash Gordon facts to see if there was stuff that I didn't know about, and I didn't realise that the Flash Gordon comics went back so far, and it's like 1938, I think it is,
something like that. Yeah. Well, I mean, they were making the serials with Buster Crabbe, sort of.
Oh yeah. No, that was late 30s, so maybe it was early that. But yes, it was right around that time. Sort of, they had sort of the Wonder Womans and the Flash Gordons and stuff. And I didn't realise it was inspired by Buck Rogers.
Yes.
You know, to talk about all these things coming out at once. Like, all the 80s references, or I know Buck Rogers was 70s really, wasn't it? But
I mean, Buster Crabbe played Buck Rogers as well.
Yeah.
So he best of both worlds. Friend of the podcast, Flake Dilly, his grandfather or great-grandfather was the original, probably publisher.
Oh, really?
And his family holds the rights. So Flint Dille wrote things like Transformers the movie, lots of G.I. Joe he wrote, lots of Dungeons and Dragons games. He's involved with a lot of games. I think he had something to do with writing the Pokemon Go game as well.
Oh, blimey.
So, yeah, certainly creativity runs in that family. But, yeah, he's basically the heir to the Buck Rogers comics and everything. His family holds I think it's his sister. Is sort of the, I don't know what's it called, the Guardian?
Yeah, maybe. Trustee, maybe. Yeah.
That's it, yeah, just, I think you're probably right. So that family had a lot to do with Buck Rogers. So it all fits in, guys. It's all very, it's all incepted. Let's put
Yeah.
But we'll move on, because we will talk about Flash Gordon in just a minute and how pervy that is, and believe me, it's very pervy. To the adverts for this week. The adverts for this week comes from the Central region, so Midlands, from the 19th of October 1988. First one up is bit of a classic, actually. It's the Gold Blend advert with Anthony Head, and Sharon Morn. She always gets forgotten for some reason, and I think it's because basically he's decided not to bother aging since 1985, but that's fine. But it's it's one of the very famous soap style adverts where he charted their relationship from meeting when he goes. Did he go around for her coffee? I can never remember. But they didn't get married. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, it was. Oh my god, I loved this. I loved this advert. It was like just prime time for me. This was when I was very intrigued by this relationship, and I was excited by every episode of the Gold Blend advert. So I'm very glad you're playing this.
Oh, it's great. I mean, they couldn't do it now. They do try sort of resurrecting that format where they tell a story through the advert, but it's very much sort of played out now because people don't watch adverts pretty much, which is a shame. But then they don't make anything worthy of what we watch, really, apart from the He-Man Skeletor one, which I love. But there you go. Next one is Beans Means Heinz, which they've resurrected again now. This one's a little bit sad though, because it's actually the one where it's a Scouser mum giving her ginger daughter beans in the sort of 50s, and of course that ginger little girl grows up to be Scylla, and it's like, oh, and it's like I miss Scylla. Scylla was cool. But yeah, so a bit sad. But yeah, Beans Means Heinz are actually doing those adverts now. Beans Means Heinz, and they will do that every so often. They'll sort of go away from it and then come back and they'll say, yeah, remember this? Fairy do it as well. Fairy Liquid. Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, if you've had trouble like establishing like sort of a new version of a brand, I mean, Beans Means Heinz, that's great. I mean, my friends had a band called Means Heinz. I don't know if you know this.
No.
They so Hugh and Kate and Steve. So Kate is Kate LeBon, H. Hawkline and Sweet Baboo. So this is years ago, probably about 10 years ago. They had this fake sort of German krautrock band. So because none of them were famous at the time, none of them are that famous now, but like sort of fed, you know, they can play America now. But at the time, like nobody knew who they were. So they made this fake German krautrock band, and like Kate would sort of talk in a sort of German accent and things like this, and you had people writing reviews being like, "Oh, this is a really interesting band. I don't know whether they're German or not." They're really, really confused over it. Like, well, the Welsh accent was German and things like this. So that was quite funny. But they were great. But yeah, they were called Mean Times. That was their band name, and it was just like, oh, I just love it. And of course, you've got Heinz as well. The fella from the 1960s. Do you know Heinz? The fella, the blonde hair. He had a couple of hits. He was a bit dodgy and died tragically, like most people in the 60s did. Anyway,
probably.
I'll try and remember. But anyway, yeah. So Beans Means Heinz, what a legacy! Two bands, at least two bands came out of Means Heinz.
There we go. And John Kerry made a lot of money by marrying Lady Heinz.
Yeah.
From Beans, obviously from Boston.
Yeah.
That's why you call it Beantown. And also 57 varieties. A lot of bollocks. There's no such thing as 57 varieties. Just sounded good. But there you go. Then we got an advert for General Accidents, back when they were a thing and weren't taken over by Norwich Union and called Aviva because they treat the customers like dirt, but there we are. Yeah. And then a slightly xenophobic advert for McCain Oven Chips. It's the one with the French guy, supposed French chef, even though his accent starts wandering a bit. But it's for microchips. Back in 1988, microchips were a thing, and they are still fucking awful. Yeah. But they're handy. Like all food, like McCain Oven Chips and microchips, they're handy.
And beans.
What's that, sorry?
Beans, of course.
But nothing wrong with beans. Beans are fine. Microchips, I draw the line.
Yeah.
And then just to even out the unhealthy oven chips, we've got an advert for Flora Margarine, which is kind of slightly sexist, because it's that one where it's the daughter and the father shopping, and mum wants Flora Margarine. Why? Because of Polly What's-her-name. Polly What's-her-name has to have it. And it's like, oh no. 1980s.
Damn you, mum, trying to not let us have heart attacks.
Fuck you, mum, just wanting to do things that another woman wants to do, because that's how women work, isn't it? Apparently so, in the 80s. And then Terry Wogan pops up to try and sell us some nappies called Togs.
Oh.
Which I don't know if that was on purpose, but I don't know, because he had Togs, didn't he, on his radio show? Terry's all girls and girls. Yeah, then. Anyway. Then we fast forward to an advert from Pepsi, which they hardly ever advertise these days, and I bloody love Pepsi, I do. Anybody who knows me really well knows that Pepsi is my thing. It's my drink. I hate Coke. Cannot be doing with it. Pepsi, the best. Especially Pepsi Max. I
was going to say, I'm fine with Pepsi Max. I don't like full fat drinks.
No, I can't drink
it. But Diet Coke is horrible. Pepsi Max is all right.
Yeah. Diet Coke tastes of nothing.
Nothing wrong with it.
But then you go back to full fat Coke or Pepsi after drinking those for a long time, and it's like, oh no, I don't like that. But there you go. And then an advert for Rumble O's, just to really sort of stamp in the fact that we're in the 80s when renting televisions was a thing. Can you imagine? And then a trailer for one of my favourite films of all time. My age varies on this one. Police Academy 2.
Aww.
And they show the really, really slightly dodgy racist bit where I'm not sure whether it is racist because it's Jones doing his old kung fu shtick.
Oh, yeah.
And it's the reason it's slightly dodgy and kind of racist isn't because of Jones doing that. That's fine. He's taking the piss out of kung fu films. One of the people he's fighting is an Asian guy. It could be from China, Japan, don't know. It's not important. They overdub his actual voice with a voice that goes, so.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
This isn't very good. He kicked him in the head. It's like, oh no. What are you doing? Yeah.
See, doesn't Police Academy 2 open up with one of those, that amazing leather bar scene? Isn't that Police Academy 2?
It is in there. That is the first appearance of the Blue Oyster Club.
Yeah, Blue Oyster Club, that's it. Yeah.
Which is a running gag throughout all of them, which isn't as homophobic as people might think it is, because they are all proper Leathermen type people. And it's just a case of they dance a lot and they are quite nice.
Yeah. That's how I remember it. It's like, isn't it that the two fellas who are obviously, kind of have this kind of homoerotic relationship anyway, kind of go there and they're kind of like, well, this isn't so bad.
Yeah.
It's like...
you can say, oh, fair enough. It's all right. So yeah, it's always a weird one with the Blue Oyster Club, because on the surface kind of homophobic, but when it's actually played out, they are all right.
Yeah.
They're not taking the piss out of them at all.
Yeah, if you did more to like kind of, go for gay rights than a lot of other things in the 80s.
Yeah, which sounds strange from the Police Academy films, but never mind. Oh well, Hollywood, it's a strange place. But we shall be back after the ads to talk about something that again, just sort of flashes up that Hollywood is a bit of a strange place. We'll be back in a few minutes. Bye bye for now.
He-Man is here. I'll be right back.
You're not going to believe this.
You're right. I'm not.
I'm really sorry I'm late.
Late? We're on the coffee.
Go blue. Just in time.
Well, now, I think you know everyone except...
We've already met.
We share the same taste in coffee.
Golden roasted, richer, smoother. Nescafe Gold Blend.
Are you always this late?
I won't be tomorrow.
What's happening tomorrow?
I'm inviting you for dinner.
What makes you think I'll accept?
You can't resist my coffee.
If I used all my Heinz Bay fiends, will I grow up to be famous?
Why not? You've got your mother's charm, your mother's talent, your father's nose.
But nothing that can't be fixed, eh?
You were robbed.
Get off!
Millions of little Britons have grown up great knowing beans means Heinz.
I'm General Accident, and I have a splendid new personal pension plan.
You have?
Call now for details.
I will. Save today, secure tomorrow.
Oven chips in the oven.
In 1979, McCain introduced you to the revolutionary oven chip. Well, time waits for no one. And now McCain have come up with the McCain microchip. Another brilliant idea. Just 3 minutes in a microwave. Ingenious. Real chips. Yes, they've done it again. McCain microchips. Perfect. For impatient cooks. McCain microchips. Real chips in 3 minutes. Sliced what?
Loaf. And brown, Dad. Or Mum will not be happy.
Right. Now, what's flour?
Flora. Margarine.
Well, why didn't you just put margarine?
Something to do with Polly What's-Her-Names.
Oh, I see. So Polly What's-Her-Name's got it. We have to have it.
You don't get thanks for all the decisions you make for your family.
Yogurt.
But you know why you buy Flora margarine.
Yogurt.
Master James and Miss Samantha.
Yes, it's James and Samantha, sporting the very latest design in nappies, Togs. Notice how the unique, soft, elasticated waistband hugs the waistline, making them less likely to leak than any other nappy. Togs are, of course, ultra-absorbent, which means for some they can last right through the night. Togs. We call them the ultimate design in nappies.
Hey, Freddie, what's happening?
My parents drained the pool.
Oh, so who wants to swim, huh?
The band didn't show.
We have a stereo, right?
The bus from the girls' school broke down.
I see girls.
We're out of Pepsi.
Oh, man.
In America, a cola by any other name just isn't the same.
If you make a major purchase at Rumbelows today, you don't have to pay now. You can wait until February. Have you rumbled it?
Saturday at 10:15 on Central. Guess what?
He thinks he's Bruce Lee.
Daniel, wanna fight, huh?
Police Academy 2.
Now back to He-Man and She-Ra.
And we are back. Hope you enjoyed the ads as much as we did. Now, Claire.
Right, I'm ready.
We were going to be talking about a film from 1980.
Okay, dum 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 dum. Should I start doing that? I don't know how to introduce this. I kind of feel like I should be doing some sort of harmonised, opening for you.
People definitely don't want to hear me try and sing.
I was going to say, don't let me sing. Don't let me sing. Don't make that happen.
We could always just say, Clyde's so bored. But yes, we are talking about the 1980 science fiction action film, it says on Wikipedia.
Okay.
Based on the King Features comic strip of the same name, which I can guarantee and confirm is from 1934.
Ah, okay.
And it says, of course, Flash Gordon.
Yeah. Fantastic. Flash.
Yeah.
Flash. It should do. Aha!
Oh God, no. Yeah, a bit of a weird one, this, because before Star Wars, lots of people wanted to make it. Including George Lucas.
Yes, I know. I found this really interesting, like the fact that he was sort of shopping around for an idea and he sort of approached them and sort of wanted to make it. But wasn't it interesting that Fellini, like, because Dino De Laurentiis is obviously he works a lot with Fellini, and I find it fascinating that he was like, you know, he's sitting there with Fellini, and Fellini's like, oh yeah, I want to do Flash Gordon. And it's like, wouldn't that have been amazing? And then it's like, oh, Fellini in the end, you know, couldn't really do it, and so, you know, George Lucas was sniffing around, and it's like, well, no, you know, he's going to do his own thing, which is almost exactly like Flash Gordon. Just
mixed with like The Hidden Fortress and Seven Samurai and God knows what else.
I'm a big Star Wars fan. I am, but I'm quite glad he stayed away from Flash Gordon, because I think it's I love this film. I think it's great. It is incredibly cheesy. It could be called bad by some people, but I think if it was taken too seriously, like George Lucas definitely would have done, then it would have just been ruined for me. So,
well, yeah, I mean, when people say, "Oh, it's a bad film, it's campy," it's like, well, Lorenzo Semple Jr. wrote it.
Yeah,
this is the man who wrote loads of the '66 Batman series. Yeah, of course, it's campy.
Yeah. But I mean, exactly. But I mean, I just don't think him and George Lucas would have been a very good fit. I think it's that thing of like, if like George Lucas would have been pushing and pushing to make it serious, and that made it genuinely a really bad film. Like, nobody would have gone to see that. Like that weird kind of rub would have just not worked out at all. So
I think with some things, gritty doesn't work. I don't think Flash Gordon or even Buck Rogers lends itself to gritty.
Yeah.
So obviously, around the same time, you had the Buck Rogers series with Gil Gerard. And again, that was campy as all get out.
Yeah.
Very disco. Loads of disco. But it's a classic series. Yeah. And it's a series I would say to anybody, if you want to see late 70s TV done right, go watch that and Galactica and things like that. And I just don't think gritty would have worked, because they did try a gritty Flash Gordon in the early 2000s, I think it was, sci-fi.
I didn't see that.
Oh, it was rubbish. You missed nothing.
Oh my goodness, I didn't even know that happened. That's that I didn't know that happened.
It was basically Sliders, if you remember Sliders.
Yeah.
It was like that. So he got to Mongo by like portals and stuff like that. Portals were appearing on Earth. And it's just weird and not very good.
Yeah.
And just, if you're expecting fun Flash Gordon, this wasn't it. But certainly the film is fun.
So much fun.
But just before we... Film. Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, just the colours in Flash Gordon. Like, it's so colourful. It's the most colourful, wonderful, you know, chintzy, like, you know, the sort of that sort of like bingo caller gold jacket. It's like, it feels like everybody's dressed in that. They're not, but that's the kind of feeling of it. It's amazing.
Well, I think Mike Hodges just didn't want to do Star Wars.
Yeah.
So I think he went as far away from it as you could.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, obviously we said Fellini was going to direct it originally. Eventually, the Laurentiis brothers did get sort of an art house type director to direct a sci-fi film, and that was Dune.
Yeah.
Which we should talk about at some point in another podcast, because that was their other attempt to make Star Wars. And oh wow, I mean, Dune the colouring book? I don't think so. But they did it. They made it. It's like, it's not... let's make a sticker book out of a David Lynch film. I want to see the Eraserhead sticker book. That would be amazing. Try working that out.
Maybe like more like a sort of pin the hair on Jack Nance, something like that.
Nice. Works. Yeah, it works. But anyway, Flash Gordon. Eventually they did get Mike Hodges to direct it. And as we said,
Mike Hodges, of course.
Yes.
About, like, sort of a bit of art house, like get Carter, and like he did like some really kind of that sort of classic, almost gritty. Like we talk about, like, you know, going away from gritty. Like he kind of did gritty, so it's kind of a strange choice in a way. Although his sort of star had sort of waned a bit by the time that this came around, I suppose.
Yeah, and then a couple of films after this, he did Morons from Outer Space.
Yeah.
On the other hand, he did do Prayer for the Dying and Croupier, so, you know.
Yeah,
he did go back to gritty. But yeah, quite rightly, he did get Carter. So, but hey, look, he did a good job.
Yeah, he did a great job. Yeah. Yeah, the pacing of it, I think, is really great. I think it's really, because, and I didn't sort of realise until I was sort of looking into it that, sort of the story is kind of obviously, you know, inspired by the comics, but so the comics start off with Flash Gordon kind of going to you know, being kidnapped, you know, like it is by Zartov, and sort of like, you know, him and Dale being kidnapped and taken to Mongo, and then they have some adventures there, and they go to another planet and have some adventures there. So, you know, and that works brilliantly for comics. Like, that's a great base to, you know, like, oh, you know, some random humans that have been kidnapped by a mad scientist, you know, and you've gone to another dimension, you know, fantastic premise. But, like, to put it into a film, I mean, it could have been, I mean, it, you know, people can argue that it's a bit of a mess. I don't think it is. I think it's great. But, like, it could have been, if it was made now, the film would be, like, 3 hours long, and they'd be trying to, you know, like, put so much into it. And it's like, it's really nice that they've given a real snapshot, so you can kind of feel like you've kind of, you've spent more time in these worlds than you actually have. Is that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It zips along at a really good pace, and you sort of, you don't need to know much about Flash and Dale other than they're called Flash and Dale, and Flash is a footballer for the Jets, and Dale's a reporter.
Hi, I'm a bit like Lois Lane. You met me in Superman.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I'm a little bit like Margot Kidder.
Yeah.
I've even been made up to look like the Margot Kidder, because usually I have blonde hair. But again, with Zarkov and Hootkins, who dies again. Like Porkins, he dies really early on in this film. But Zarkov, played by one of my favourite actors, Hein Toppel. I love him. He's great. He's so good in this as well.
Yeah.
He's Zarkov. Again, it's all sort of, the exposition is told by the television.
Yeah.
So you don't need to know much about anything. It just gets on with it and says, this is happening. This is what he thinks. He's going to try and go up and sort it out.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, you're in space.
Yeah. And it's that fantastic, like the, you know, when you can make it a home, you just get a thing of water and some oil and effect. But like, you know, it still looks beautiful. Really, the fantastic, that, like I say, that use of colour, really saturated colour. It was just like, it does feel really fantastical. And like you say, it feels very different to Star Wars. You know, really important that, you know, you're not in a black space with little dotted stars with a, you know, like, you know, a spooky looking moon. You know, this is, you know, a day glow universe. You know, it's really different.
You really see that in Ming's throne room when he's getting the tributes.
Yeah.
And you see all the residents of the Mongo system.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, where you get Prince Thud and Barin, and you get obviously Vultan.
Yeah.
You know, so many different types of aliens as well. And Deep Roy's there because he's in everything. Because we need a little person. Deep Roy, there you go. Who's been in everything from, I think he was in, oh Lord, he was in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. He's been in that. Up to Star Trek now, the Star Trek films.
And I think he's been used by he's, you know, really the fellow that did Fantastic Mr. Fox that I've gone completely. Wes Anderson.
Oh, Wes Anderson, yeah.
I think he's now his favourite. You know.
Well, he's a big fan of Willy Wonka. The Willy Wonka film with Wes Anderson. So, but yeah. Quick note then on Sam J. Jones. You see him a lot in the film. You don't hear him at all. It's not him.
Did they dub him all the way through?
Apparently he was that bad.
Oh my God.
Which is partly the reason you didn't get Flash Gordon 2. They wanted to do a Flash Gordon 2. They made enough money to do a Flash Gordon 2. They actually doubled the budget. So it wasn't a turkey, as everybody likes to say it was. It was very successful. But because of that, Sam J. Jones had disagreements with De Laurentiis and departed prior to post-production, which is one of the reasons you get a lot of his dialogue being dubbed over by a professional voice actor.
Wow.
We don't know who it is.
I was going to say, I've never heard that before. I didn't know that he was dubbed. That's really interesting.
But yeah, he departed partly because of that and partly because he had other disagreements. But yes, it's not his voice. You can sort of tell when you watch Ted, because he's in Ted, the Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah.
And he talks in that, you can sort of say, well, that doesn't sound a thing like he does. Obviously, he's older, but even then, it doesn't sound a thing like him because it ain't him.
Yeah.
So you do see him, and he certainly looks the part.
Yeah. Yeah.
Melody Anderson is Dale Arden. She's been in quite a few things, but never was big as an actress. Yeah. Max von Sydow as Ming the Merciless.
Who's he? What's he been in?
Nothing much of note. Nah, did a few obscure Swedish films in the 50s.
It's amazing, isn't it? Because De Laurentiis obviously works quite a lot with Ingmar Bergman and stuff like that, and it's you wonder how those conversations started. So Max, hiya, I know we haven't seen each other for a while. Well, I'm making this massive, colourful adventure in space. You know,
do you know what? He will have jumped at the
chance.
Yeah,
I bet. Yeah.
That happens if you get somebody you want to play an over the top villain. Yeah. Most actors worth their salt will jump at that chance.
Yeah.
There's a great interview with Frank Langella, who played Skeletor in the Masters of the Universe film. And you would think he would say, oh yeah, I did it and it was awful. No, I never really want to be talking about that. He says it's one of his favourite roles.
Really?
Well, the reason he did it was because of his son, who was 4 years old at the time and a big, massive He-Man fan. Yeah. And he said, well, I'll do this. I'll do it. Why not? And apparently he had a blast, and it's genuinely one of his favourite ever roles is Skeletor.
That's brilliant. I'm really pleased to hear that. I love him. I think he's brilliant. I'm glad he had a good time. Yeah, I mean, with Matt Fantido, it's like kind of, I think it's just because we've got this idea, because Alec Guinness hated all the Star Wars stuff and like totally took the piss out of it. And I've read his diaries and stuff as well, and he's very disparaging. I think I've just gotten it in my head. Any kind of like, older actor of quality is going to like, immediately think this is like, a and not talk about it.
I think it's more a failing of Alec Guinness than anybody else.
Yeah.
He wasn't a particularly pleasant man by all accounts. Whereas Max von Sydow, you got Ian McKellen, who does all, any role like that, he will jump at the chance to do it. And Patrick Stewart and all those sort of actors. So I think he really enjoyed being, because he could ham it up as much as he wanted as well. Interesting though, he doesn't really ham it up.
Yes,
not particularly. He's sort of
much further. Yeah.
It's kind of an understatement. He's chewing the scenery a bit, but he's not over the top. And then you got another one of my favourite actors, Peter Wangard, Clytus.
Yeah.
Who isn't Darth Vader.
Not Darth Vader at all.
It's not Darth Vader.
No. I tell you what, he's got one of the best death scenes of anything. When I was a kid, that used to terrify me.
Yeah, it's awful. It's his tongue and eyes pop out. Yeah. They do with General Carla though as well. She melts.
Yeah.
But yeah, Clytus is great. He's one of my favourite characters in the whole film. I've even got a Funko Pop of General Clytus. Oh. That's how much I love him. But poor Peter Wangard was just completely enclosed in that mask. Kickstarted his career kind of, because he had been done for I don't know how they put it, but cottaging effectively.
I didn't know that. I didn't realise he'd been caught, and then I knew he'd been caught at some point, but I didn't realise he'd been caught, and that's what. And it was around that time. I thought it was much later. Okay.
It didn't help his career, let's put it that way, because he had been massive with the old Jason King, Department Z and all that kind of, which is great. If you ever get a chance to go watch that, it's hilarious. Always in these TV hell packages that they always put out saying, it's what people thought was good in the 70s. It's like not realising that they were taking the piss.
Yeah.
And they knew they were.
Did you see the sort of the latest film with and I've gone completely blank on what it's called now, but the fellow, and it was in the Isle of Man.
Mindhorn.
Yeah, Mindhorn, of course.
Julian Barrett. Yeah.
Do you watch Mindhorn?
I've got it on DVD.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Yeah. It's lovely. Our projection team have got a Mindhorn cut out like in the back, so it's it kind of it's all it was there as a lovely little reminder for them. But yeah, I love that sort of playing around with a bit of the Jason King, a bit of the Bergerac, and all that. But that's the thing. It's like these series were they were huge, then they were really important to people, and it's kind of, and it's I didn't realise that that's what kind of killed his career off. I thought it happened. I knew he sort of been caught, but I thought it'd been sort of like pre-career almost. I didn't realise it like it.
Yeah, it was. Let's have a look.
No, I'm sure you're right.
Trying to... Hey, I say September 1975 it was. He was fined £75 for gross indecency, and he was battling alcoholism at the time.
Yeah.
So I think a couple of those things didn't help.
Yeah.
Because obviously in the 70s, we'd like to have thought, I think, that there were, the whole permissive society thing. I think that shit stuck, basically. And it did ruin his career, basically, and sort of stall it, which is a shame, because he was very good.
Really good, yeah, really great actor. And that voice, I mean, goodness me. Yeah, fantastic.
Oh dear.
They didn't really need him in the outfit, did they? He could have just dubbed that, surely.
No, because I think you get a good performance. You got that whole when he does the business with the handkerchief.
Oh, that's true.
So he's got the handkerchief in his hand because it's.
Yeah.
I didn't realise this as a kid, but it's something that Aura had dropped. So Ming's daughter dropped that handkerchief early on in the film. Okay. So he's sniffing it because he's after her.
Oh, right, of course, yeah.
So if you actually follow it through the film, he sniff it. It's kind of creepy what he's doing, and I'm thinking it's got to come from Wingard.
Yeah.
Because I mean the whole Aura Ming bloody Clytus thing is a bit dodgy anyway, because I'm certain there's at least 2 or 3 parts in the early part of that film where they're heavily implying that Ming is fucking his daughter.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? It's quite creepy and horrible.
Yeah. It's, I don't know, he's got that whole daddy-daughter horrible, it's like, what's going on? Because they do say...
Doesn't he grab her leg or something, like her thigh, in my head?
No, that's when he thinks it's a slave girl who he thinks is Dale.
Okay.
But there are bits where she sort of, the way she talks to him and the way he talks to her is kind of implying a little bit that maybe they are sort of Game of Thrones in it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, I mean, it is kind of heavily implied all the way through the film that Mongans are just like Roman Empire's worst excesses.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason they are the way they are, because they're just horrible. But yeah, she obviously mentioned in Aura, Ornella Muti is very good as Aura. She's, every sort of, every 10-year-old boy who watches that film says, I feel a bit funny. I feel a bit odd. I don't know why. It's not like when Princess Leia was around and I just wanted to hold her hand. It's sort of, there's a bit something else going on. Sexual awakening for so many boys, and probably a lot of girls as well.
Some girls, I'd say, yes.
I know there's a guy on TV Cream, one of the guys who does the podcast there. He likes the Sam J. Jones bits a lot. And they did a whole commentary on Flash Gordon. And you know the bit where he gets executed with his leather pants?
Oh, of course, yes.
Apparently that was that guy's sexual awakening.
Yeah. It's funny because I think my colleague at work has said a similar thing. When we screened it for our sci-fi season, she just mentioned this at the start. So we screened it. And this is one of the things I really like doing. Obviously, is when I get to completely just pick 3 months worth of films and just based on what I like and one theme that I like, and it was sci-fi, and it was like fantastic, great, all my favourites. Here we go. And so I made a big deal out of Flash Gordon. And I'm sure that because my colleague hadn't seen it before, I think, and he's only a young one. He's only in his early 20s, and he was like, "Oh my goodness!" He went a bit blushy. I was like, "Oh yeah, that is a thing, isn't it? In the leather pants."
Well, yeah, because he's naked apart from the leather pants, and he's quite, he was a good-looking chap, was Sam J. Jones back in the 70s. And certainly I can certainly see how a lot of young fellas who are of that disposition thought, ooh, hello.
Yeah.
But there you go. That's absolutely. But Princess Aura, being the straight heterosexual man that I am, hello.
Yeah. But also, if we talk about hotties, I have to talk about Brian Blessed and my mum. Fancy. This is like one of the things I find really like endearing, but also really dumb about my mum. My dad resembles in lots of ways Brian Blessed, and when we were kids, we'd watch Flash Gordon. My mum would be like, "Oh, I love Brian Blessed." We'd be like, "Just like Dad." Like, it's not even like, where's the fantasy with that? Where's the escapism? It's like the man who looks and acts very similar to our father, and he's just on the screen. And so we used to get that every single time we watched it. My mum would be like, "Oh, Brian Blessed!" Get very excited when it came on screen.
Well, to be fair, as I get older, I'm starting to look more like Brian Blessed, but there you go. I always feel a bit sorry for Brian Blessed because this appears to be the point at which everyone says, "Oh, this is where he is, loud Brian Blessed," but I don't agree with that. If you actually watch the film, he's actually quite quiet in that film.
Yeah.
It's Blackadder where he starts getting loud.
Yeah.
But that whole "Gordon's alive!" He doesn't shout "Gordon," he says "Gordon's alive."
Yeah. Yeah.
But he is great. He steals the show.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. He completely steals the show out from everybody. Because the person who should have been the big star, and he kind of still is in the film, he's probably my favourite character in the whole thing, is Timothy Dalton as Prince Barry.
Oh, yeah.
He's certainly got the best line in the whole film. Freeze your bloody bastards!
Yeah. Well, again, just to, drop in the event we did in back in 2014, but I got some artists to make the tree with sort of a different perish in every hole, in every tree trunk.
Tree beast.
So it was things like there was mashed potato in one, and because it was kid friendly, and there was sweets and stuff. So you got kids like, oh yeah, there's going to be sweets when you put your hand down, and then like it was jelly in another and stuff like that, and yeah. So, but yeah, Timothy Dalton for me is the hottie in this film. I thought he was amazing, just lovely,
dashing.
Yeah, even with the little weird tash that he's got.
But I think Barron has that in the 40s.
Yeah.
Serials, I'm sure he does. So basically, just exactly one, because Voltan certainly is exactly the same. Only in the 40s, you could trust him even less.
Yeah.
He's always supposed to be this untrustworthy character, as Prince Voltan. But I like the Hawkmen.
Yeah, they're fun.
I can't. Because, what's his face? What's his name? John Hallam, who's in there. He's the main Hawkman after him. And John Hallam was in loads of things. He's a really cool character. But yeah, there were loads of cool Hawkmen in that film. And his daughter, you see once in the whole film, when Clytus threatens.
Yeah.
You see the Hawkmen surround her, and then you never see her ever again.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, okay, that was worth it then. But also Richard O'Brien's in it.
Yeah.
Which everybody forgets. Richard O'Brien back when he was Richard O'Brien. Because he's Richard O'Brien's name?
Really?
I know he lives in New Zealand, and he has, he's neither male nor female.
Oh, okay. So it's not like, I was going to say, like, just putting an S on the end of your name doesn't, it's like, he's got, he's escaped to a different country and just put, but yeah, okay. He's basically, then fair enough.
I doubt he's listening. He's now male and female and has boobs and a bald head and decided that, I am everything.
Yeah.
Cause he was always not weird, was he? But yeah, he's gloriously weird in this as well.
Yeah.
Very Crystal Mazy in this, actually.
Well,
this
character. I mean, essentially, if you think about Crystal Maze, I suppose in a way it's a bit like going to these different worlds and, like, trying to find your way. And yeah, you've got the tree and all the different, you've got to get your way through to the, and solve the puzzle. So I suppose, yeah, I could see where that could have been inspired by a bit of Flash Gordon there.
I reckon so. And you've got two cameos, one big, one blink and you miss it. The big one is Peter Duncan from Blue Peter.
Yes.
Who is killed really early.
Yeah.
And then the one that you blink and you miss it, at the airfield, there's a man putting fuel into the aircraft. That man is Robbie Coltrane.
Really?
He's there for half a second.
Oh my god, I will have to go and watch this again. Like, I've seen it a million times anyway, but I didn't know about Robbie Coltrane. That's really interesting.
No, I didn't know until about a year ago. I think I was listening to Will Hodgson's podcast. We hope it's chips. Plug. And he mentioned it, and it's like, is he? And then I saw it not so long back, and it's like, oh yeah. But he's literally there for, like, if you blink, you will miss him. And that's because the bit on the airfield is supposed to be America. It's actually filmed on the Isle of Skye.
Yeah, I was to say, there's no way that was, genuinely.
I was never fooled. I always thought it was Scotland.
Yeah.
I thought it was meant to be Scotland, but apparently no, it's set in the US. It's like, funny. Doesn't look like the US. And I love the fact that that's the most unbelievable part of Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
Everything else, fine with it.
It's just completely lost it for me now. I can't believe the rest of it because it's not really in America.
Mink soldiers with guns that have fists on them. Yeah. Fine with that. Fine. No problem with that. That is a weird gun.
A fisting gun.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
But you know when they first go on the planet and he fires a fist out of his gun and it grabs Flash by the neck? That's a weird gun to have.
Yeah. See, when I was a kid, I was convinced that, because that whole scene when he's playing American football, and like, you know, because when you watch things lots and lots of times, and you know how I was convinced that Sam Jones was actually an American footballer, maybe because his acting was so bad. So I think
he did that a lot, though, didn't he?
Yeah, because I think he's meant to be American footballer or something like that.
Yeah, he's plays for the New York Jets.
Yeah, and it's like I think I'd assume that that's why he's so bad. Like when you can kind of, you know, in your brain as a kid, you can kind of work out that, okay, his acting isn't as good as everybody else's acting. That's because he's not really an actor. He's a sports.
Thing is, though, a lot of the American footballers who end up being actors are actually pretty good.
Yeah.
For what they do. I'm not saying any of them will be doing Shakespeare anytime soon, but you have like Bernie Casey, who recently passed away, who was in Revenge of the Nerds, and he was in the Bond films a lot. You got Carl Weathers, who was Apollo Creed in Rocky. I never knew he was a footballer.
Yeah, Carl Weathers, yeah. And Paul Robeson, of course, was originally a footballer, yeah.
Yeah, and O.J. Simpson. Oh.
Wow.
But, yeah, there was him. But there have been others as well, and generally they are pretty good, but Sam J. Jones is atrocious.
Yeah.
Even with the redub, but there you go. Yeah. But what's your favourite bit? Have you got a favourite bit?
Like, it's weird because it's kind of, when I think about it, the bits that really stuck with me and sort of like made me think about things differently, I suppose, the bit where with the drinking and the wooziness and the sort of the music, the way the music comes in. I haven't written down who's done the music apart from the Queen.
Howard Shaw. Was it Howard Shaw?
It's not Howard Shaw. Is it Howard Shaw? Howard Shaw, like does famous man who does
Howard Blake.
Okay.
I apologise.
Yeah,
it's Howard.
Because it's a really interesting soundtrack. Like the incidental music is really interesting. Like the when they're going in, there's bits, like I say, there's bits that stick in the mind. Like when the amazing outfit, where it's almost kind of like Asian influence, kind of like almost like Thailand.
It's that whole Red Peril thing, because that's I mean that was what Ming was originally. He was Red China. He was all that kind of. Originally sort of Yellow Peril, as they called it back then.
The whole like, I mean, because I used to love that outfit, and they dress Dale up in that outfit, and they give her some of the drink and stuff, and like just the sound design to that is really, really interesting. There's that sort of a real wooziness to it, which you don't see very often, where they kind of, you know, it's almost quite art house in that way that they have, you know, this whole sequence where it's you know, they wouldn't do that they wouldn't make quite such an almost like an adult choice with a kind of a campy movie, if that makes sense. You know?
Yeah. I'd agree with that. And Howard Blake obviously wrote things like The Snowman and all that kind of
right, okay, that's why I know his name. Okay.
Yeah. So obviously he worked on a lot of things after and before. But yeah, no, I agree with you. The music in the film it's odd because it's, like you say, it's got this art house mentality, and also it's Queen, and a lot of it is Freddie Mercury, who, you know, had a very distinctive style all of his own anyway. And there's certain parts of it, because I'm quite a bit of a Queen fan, I can sort of tell you who wrote what bits. I don't need to. It's like the bit where they're going through the Sea of Fire, where it's all I'm guessing Roger Taylor. But like Football Fight, which is one of my favourite pieces of music in the whole film, where that's the bit where he is playing football in Ming's throne room. Freddie Mercury, one of the best bits of movie ever. And also reused in Ted.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Which I was very happy. I mean, I was very happy with the whole Flash Gordon thing anyway, because it's a film that never gets referenced. So to have such a Flash Gordon heavy reference in it was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I owned the Queen soundtrack as a kid, and I would listen to that lots because it was just so good. Not only the title music, but if you've never heard the whole soundtrack, definitely do.
Yeah,
get it.
It's one of those. It's because I was huge. I mean, I was a huge Queen fan when I was a kid, and my dad had most albums, but he didn't have that one, which is really odd because I was sort of thinking about it when I was Flash, and I was like because you can hear it in the albums like just after like in the game, which is the album like they released sort of the non-soundtrack album they released around that time, and that's when you got Another One Bites the Dust. Sorry, I was going to say Never Go and Bite the Dust. That's not the title. My God. Another One Bites the Dust, which is like, absolutely one of the best songs of all time. But yeah, you can hear the kind of like, they were going in that way because obviously they sort of played around with the opera style and stuff like that, and they played with these like sort of like playing around with genres a little bit and what rock could be and things like that. But Flash Gordon was the first soundtrack they did, I think. And so it's just kind of this. You can really hear it in the next album they did. It's really the music sounds more cinematic than it does operatic, if that makes sense.
They could. I think with the game they went sort of down the whole sort of funk black music, very heavily influenced by John Deacon, who was quite bass player, so obviously he's into that kind of thing. And then they did Hot Space, which I think is the one pretty much after. Not a popular one among Queen fans because it played around with a lot of funk and stuff, and apparently the band weren't that happy with it either. It was all Freddie Mercury's idea. Yeah. And the rest of them
I've been going to this club, mate. Let's do this.
Exactly. Yeah. That's exactly what it was. I've been going to these clubs and I've been hearing this music, and they're like, well, it's not really rock, is it? So then you get things like the Works that came after, which are a lot more rock influence, and I think. But you've got to experiment. Yeah. I suppose if you're a band that's been around a long time, like they were. Yeah. But certainly, I think the next soundtrack they did after this was Kind of Magic, which is a loose soundtrack at best. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame because it's like with that, and it's funny because in Highlander the songs feel a lot more kind of like shoehorned in. Like, when you got the Kurgan in we should do Highlander at some point, but the Kurgan in Highlander sort of like, go like, it's a kind of magic, and then like, and then the song cuts in for like 30 seconds, and you're like, oh, come on,
If this is how much of a Highlander nerd I am, it's MacLeod says it, and he says it.
Oh, that's what he does.
It's Kate when he gets shot down by the Nazi. Yeah. Goes, shh. It's a kind of
Yeah.
And then he says one of the best lines I've ever heard in any film at all. And he goes, whatever you say, Jack, you're the master race. And then he shoots them. Yeah. Fucking great. Yeah. I don't care what anyone says. I love Highlander.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we'll do Highlander at one point. We'll get to indulge in that.
We definitely will. But I agree with you about the soundtrack completely. It did definitely influence what they could do later on. I think it's sort of one of those things where I think Freddie thought I can do my own thing occasionally without the rest of them. Because Brian May did a horror soundtrack. He did the soundtrack for a film called Dr. Giggles, which I've never seen, but it sounds awful, so I need to see it. And John Deacon did a soundtrack as well. He did the Biggles soundtrack. He had a lot to do with that film, apparently. He produced it.
Oh, wow.
Which I bet he wishes he hadn't.
But it's the only thing I know that John Deacon's done that not to do with music is he was a massive he's a massive investor in Pop Bitch. Do you know this? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Pop Bitch found out because they had this anonymous donor, and then they threw a party, and he turned up at the party like, it's John Deacon. And he was like, the guy that's been giving you loads of money.
Yeah, he just left. He's not a part of Queen anymore because he doesn't need to be. He's completely incredibly rich.
Yeah.
But there you go. That's what you do. You invest your money wisely and you become very rich, which is what he certainly did. But like I say, he does have the stain of Biggles on his soul. It's a fucking awful film. But anyway, so I mean, is there sort of any other sections that sort of stick out to you? Anything else that sort of stayed with you as a kid from when you're an adult?
Yeah, I mean, it's just also good. I mean, there's just like, I think, like I say, the pacing of it is really great. But you do get this kind of this sort of dipping into different, like you said, the opening scene where you get suddenly introduced to all these different races, these different planets that are, part of the wider universe. And you kind of, it's weird because you kind of feel, I don't know how they did this because I've never read any of the comics, I've never heard anything, never watched any of the serials, but I kind of got this kind of backstory about all of them in my head. And I think that's just genius. I don't know how they managed that. That somehow as an adult now, when I think about those sort of, those various sort of characters and those various different worlds within, the Mongo universe, I could make up a whole story about every single one of them. And when you think about there's, there's things like the Marvel universe, Guardians and Galaxy aside, because I think that's a separate issue. But like, there's a lot of those where I don't really care about their backstory. I don't think about their backstory. But in things like Flash Gordon, I've kind of got this. They've somehow given the characters enough that I've got this kind of sense of what their lands are like, and I'm vaguely interested to know what they're each like. I
think partly because they tell or they reveal the character through the story.
Yeah.
It's not a thing where they give them a backstory, then put them in a situation. I think you find out bits. It's like the whole sequence with Zarkov where they empty his mind.
Yeah.
Of course they don't, because he thinks about things like Einstein's theory of relativity and the Beatles and all.
Yeah.
But you get that whole sequence where you go backwards from his life to when he was born. His parents as refugees, his mum, also his wife dying in the pool. That kind of. It's really clever sequence because it's showing you.
Yeah.
You're seeing everything you need to know about Zarkov, but really quickly and sort of backwards almost as well. Particular favourite bit of mine there is when Hitler appears and Keitel said, "Now he showed promise."
Yeah.
It's like, that's pretty much it. But again, the whole relationship between Aura and Barry, you don't get told it. You see what she treats him like shit, basically. She's not very nice to him. And he's pretty devoted to her. Which also tells you that really he's kind of a good guy. He makes out that he's this bad guy and he hates everybody and everything, but he's alright, he's Baron. Same with Vultan, although Vultan takes a lot, he's mainly just scared for his kingdom. And again, they show that through showing you. They don't just say, this is Vultan, he's scared for his kingdom. No, it's when Ming says he's coming, it's like, well, what have you done? What have you done to my kingdom? You fucked it up. So it's very clever. It's very good. Like you say, very well paced. And it doesn't, there's not a part of the film you think, oh, this is dragging.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's always something to look at. Like the one of the things that fascinated me as a kid was the lizard men.
Yeah.
With their eyes in their mouth.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah.
So again, that always made me weird. The wood beast always freaked me out. That thing when Flash is running through the forest and that bloody great big bladder comes up and tries to consume.
That's a great scene.
That's just weird. But I like it. And of course, General Carla was always a bit odd to me as well.
But it's that bit that that's quoted in the Flash song. Bring back what Abe got. So bring back his body. It's just like all of them had such commitment to the characters.
What do you mean, Flash Gordon approaching?
Flash Gordon approaching. Yeah. And but yeah, that's the thing. It's just kind of they didn't sort of half-arse it.
Well, no, because
really,
it's one of those. Oh, sorry,
no, that was it.
I was going to say, I mean, part of that was that they used proper actors.
Yeah.
You might not have known all of them because a lot of the Italian ones, but Mariangela Malata, who played General Carla, she was like a major actress in Italian cinema.
Yeah.
She, like I say, she worked for Fellini and things like that. So, it's that verisimilitude thing. Whereas if you can get good actors to be in these roles, then you will believe pretty much anything that happens because they're properly acted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is something that Marvel didn't do until the mid 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When they decided, hang on a minute, well, instead of making these shit films with really crappy actors, I get Robert Downey Jr. to be Iron Man. Do you think that'll work? And it's like, it worked. So we should get proper actors to do this shit then.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So yeah, it does work when you get proper actors to do this stuff. It does give it. Obviously, people are still going to say, "Oh, it's just campy rubbish." But actually, if you watch Flash Gordon and you actually look at the performances, they're not camping it up half
Yeah.
the time. They're all having a whale of a time. That much is obvious. And it has got one of the best campy, silly lines ever, which is Flash, Flash, I love you.
Yeah.
But we only have 14 hours to save the Earth.
I know, it's fantastic.
But again, if you know where that comes from, which is the serials, which if you haven't seen them, see them.
Yeah.
They're fantastic. Especially the cliffhangers. One of them is literally a cliffhanger.
Wow.
It always takes the form of, again, Batman, the 66 series got this from those serials.
Yeah.
So you put them in a situation, and the Batman series isn't as bad as the serials, so they would normally get out of it quite easily. In the serials, you would see Flash Gordon say, get his head cut off.
Yeah.
Then say, tune in to see what happened. So obviously you tune in to see what happened, and what had happened, he just ducked. And it had nothing to do with what you'd seen before at all. And it's like, yep, we're just going to do that, because technically, in the cinema, it's been a week since you've seen this. You probably don't remember.
Yeah.
They're fantastic.
Yeah.
I remember they were always on 6 weeks holidays when I was a kid. They would show them.
Really? I don't remember.
Oh yeah, BBC Two. Okay. This is sort of mid-80s.
Yeah, I think my brother was watching them. Maybe I didn't see them. Yeah.
But then they would show things like Heidi.
Yeah, I remember seeing Heidi. Maybe that was the thing. Maybe I was just told to get out of the room when Flash was on. I don't know why that would be, but yeah, it's I didn't know about this. Okay.
Yeah, they did. I'm sure they're on YouTube. I'm sure I've seen them on YouTube.
Yeah.
But yeah, watch them if you can. They're fantastic.
But it's funny, isn't it? That thing in the sort of early 80s that obviously you got a bunch of directors like Spielberg and Lucas and I know Flash Gordon doesn't we touched on that a little bit, but kind of in the Indiana Jones, bringing they were like, I totally want to do this. This is the film I want to do. I've got endless budget. They'll let me do whatever I like. But you know what? These are the films we want to make. We'll make a serial style thing because this is what we loved when we were kids.
Well, that's what Star Wars.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole crawl, the start of the Star Wars films, that's directly from those serials of the 40s. That's what they would do to bring you up to speed with what happened. And the Batman ones, the Electrical Brain especially does that. That's fantastic, is the Electrical Brain. It's so incredibly racist, because it was made in the 40s. And again, this is something that you have to sort of drum into people, is values dissonance. It's like, you have to understand this was okay at the time because they were at war with the Japanese. So they weren't saying, all Asian people are horrible people. They were saying, we're at war with the Japanese. We're going to hammer that point home like you wouldn't believe. Mm. So instead of because what they did what they didn't do in the Batman serials in the 40s is option anyone other than Batman and Robin.
Yeah.
So we can't have the Joker. We can't have Catwoman. But what we can have is this villain who's Japanese because we're fighting the Japanese.
Mm. Yeah.
So we have to hammer that and we have to get that in your head that Japanese people are bad people. Because that's how propaganda works. And it's like sort of, they weren't being horribly racist for the sake of it. They were thinking they were doing the right thing. And it's like, it's one of those things that if you don't understand the history, you're doomed to repeat it again and again and again.
Yeah.
It's like, we know better now, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, with Flash Gordon though, it's interesting because obviously we've got these different races, like you said, the lizard people and that. And it's, I think, it's interesting sort of the fact, again, that they sort of touch on these people, but don't. I think if we'd have spent more time with the lizard people, there might have been some other things that had come out that were a little unsavoury in 1980. But
I think the lizard people are just the bitch of everyone in Mongol.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah. But they would have
just,
been like if we'd have spent more time in the, with the lizard people.
Yeah.
There would have had to be more character development, and therefore we might have seen a little bit more of that.
Yeah, but no time, thankfully.
Yeah.
It's like the stormtroopers who are stormtroopers, the red guys.
Mm.
They're not stormtroopers.
Yeah.
They look exactly like stormtroopers, and they make weird noises when they die. They squeal.
Yeah.
And I'd love to know why. Are they robots? Are they what are they? And it's like, I don't know. And it's sometimes I like not knowing.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool not to have an idea. You make your own headcanon up.
Well, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of that's the thing about the these characters that, these colourful characters, and they are really colourful, like all of the different people in the world of Flash Gordon. Get enough. They've done enough with the. Yeah, I mean, it's costume again. A lot of it might be details like that, like you said about the actors, like getting really good actors, getting a really great art design, and costume department that can put enough in there that it kind of sparks off different things in your imagination. You don't need to do as much with, like you said, like exposition and dialogue. You don't need to know an awful lot about the lizard people, apart from the fact that, just the way that they're presented.
They've got weird faces.
Yeah.
Their eyes are in their mouth, like Alec. Is it Alec Baldwin in Beetlejuice? I forget.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, she's. No, it's not. It's Gina Davis.
Oh, yeah.
He's got his eyeballs on his fingers.
He's got the long nose, is it?
Got the long nose and the eyeballs in his fingers. She's got the long mouth with the tongue hanging out and the eyeballs in the mouth. Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, lizard people, very, very odd and very, very strange. Another unanswered question, just before we get in and start wrapping it up. When they're doing the football thing and Clytus says, "You fools! He's obviously playing some barbaric game. You've got to match him. Like this."
Yeah.
How does that help? That doesn't help.
Okay.
It's not helping Clytus. You're saying, just match him like this, and he just stands funny, and it's like, not to be a twat, sir, but how's that going to help? In the end, it's Zarkov that does for him anyway, but it's not the point.
Yeah.
It just makes always bothered me. Always bothered
also,
me.
those faces of those henchmen.
So cool.
They look really they look sort of surprised and scared, like constantly.
Well, they're like half skulls as well. So it's like there's a lot of skull motifs.
There really is, yeah.
And I kind of like it. They all look a bit like Skeletor. And that's always
that's true. Yeah. Also, another really lovely detail that's right at the end is that obviously we can talk about it a bit more, but the when they think the ring comes off and it's just like in a pile of blood, and then as it gets blown away, the kind of bits of gristle or something it's sort of stuck on the ground. Do you remember? It's like kind of like it's like a sort of powder or something. It mostly gets blown away.
Yeah.
And then there's like this kind of nasty. I love the fact that it's like, because if it was made in 2017, that would most likely be all CGI or something.
Oh yeah.
And the fact that it's kind of there's something sticky and nasty on that concrete.
But doesn't he have black blood?
Yeah, and it's just like it just kind of gets this. Yeah, it's just this stickiness, and it feels grosser.
Oh yeah, well, it means a badass, though, isn't it?
Yeah, because if he just melted away, or he just like kind of, if it was just completely smoke or something or ashes, but because it's like this kind of nasty kind of gristle that's like around the ring, it's kind of all the more brilliant. It's all the more creepy and nasty.
Of course, you know who picks up the ring at the end, don't you?
Who?
It's supposed to be Aura.
Oh, I see. I didn't know that.
If they had made the sequel, she would have been the bad guy in the sequel.
Oh, that's brilliant! I didn't know
that. Which is interesting, I find. Well, she's Ming's daughter.
Yeah.
Can't trust her.
Mm-hmm.
Should never trust her, even though she was accosted by the ballworms, which we never see the ballworms.
Yeah.
But they sound horrible.
Yeah. And she's a pretty lady, and all pretty ladies are evil, of course.
Well, yeah, come on now.
Can't trust them. Can't trust her.
I've seen enough films. You never trust a pretty lady. Well, no, that's not true. It depends what kind of pretty lady.
It does. It really
if they're
does.
pretty and pure and nice and happy,
then.
But if they're sexy,
oh.
If they're a sexy pretty lady, then don't trust them.
Absolute trouble. Absolute trouble.
Exactly. Even though that's totally not true. Totally not. It's the nice, pretty, godly ones that you don't trust. I'm telling you. Don't trust them.
Don't trust
the sexy
nice
ones are fine. The Pollyanna types. Stay away from them. They're the evil masterminds of the whole thing.
I think the best thing is just stay away from all women, and you'll be alright. Just hang around with the tree men.
Yeah. Or the Hawkmen, because they're all manly men.
Yeah.
Just stay around them, you'll be fine. And now we're back to the Blue Oyster Bar. But there you go. Great stuff. Oh, well, I'm really happy that you like Flash Gordon.
I love it.
I'm assuming you would recommend it to anybody.
Absolutely. Well, like I said, we played it. I played it to an audience twice, in the full confidence that everybody would love Flash Gordon. And luckily, I think at least one was sold out. So I was very pleased about that.
It's a classic at the end of the day. I think it's one of those things that sort of dismissed at the time because Star Wars was cooler.
Yeah.
And if we're being perfectly honest, Star Wars is probably cooler. But it's not always about cool. Sometimes you have to have a bit of cheese.
Yeah, a bit different.
Bit of silliness.
It should be allowed that there's room in your heart for more than one sci-fi epic in a couple of years, within a couple of years. I think it's all right.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it came out the same year that Empire came out, so it was on to a bit of a loser.
God, yeah.
So, it was never, it's like, but then again, a lot of films like that from the early 80s flopped at the time or didn't do as well at the time, then became cult classics. I mean, one of them's got a sequel out coming soon.
Yeah.
And that's Blade Runner. Which completely was destroyed by E.T., which I'm very sorry, but everybody knows my opinion on E.T. sucks.
Well, you're wrong, but
I'm not.
Getting over that. Yeah.
It sucks. What I don't need in my life is Steven Spielberg's melodrama about his parents' divorce. Thanks very much. You made Close Encounters, damn it. But yeah, so, all these films sort of came back, and I wouldn't mind seeing a Flash Gordon sequel 30 odd years later. I'd be interested. You don't have to have the original cast back. You can have other people. Or maybe you can have flashback. You don't know.
See, you can swap out Sam Jones and Dale Arden. Don't really care. I don't really care if I never see them in a film. I don't think I have seen them in a film, apart from Ted playing the same character, essentially playing the same character. But Topol, I don't know. Who would you have as Topol now?
I would have Topol. He's still around.
Is he? Is he really? Is he still around?
Yeah, he's still around. He's Topol.
Wow.
He could do it. He could come back. He could do Harrison Ford as Rick Deckard or Han Solo.
Bloody love that.
But he could totally do that, and you could get other people. Von Sydow could still do it, because, it wasn't that long ago. He was in the Star Wars film.
Yeah, and he's in Game of Thrones now, of course. Well, he just was.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course he is. I don't watch Game of Thrones, but of course, that doesn't surprise me one iota. He's in everything.
He's the three-eyed raven in Game of Thrones, which is, it's like, he knows everything, he sees everything, which is exactly how I think about Max von Sydow, isn't it, anyway, so.
Absolutely. Yeah, obviously he knows everything and sees everything. He's, he was in Judge Dredd, god damn it. Yeah. The original shitty one. Oh dear, it's awful. But, he's in everything, so yeah, have him back as well as me.
Yeah.
Why not? Absolutely great. Claire, if one was to want to find you on the old wide world of the interwebs,
well,
how's a good place to sort of see what you're doing and what you're up to and stuff?
You can have a look, but if you don't like it, you can bugger off. It's at Pixieglass, so it's Pixieglass. That's my Twitter handle. Other than that, I'd stay well away. It's I have opinions, and I most people on the internet. And sometimes I express those opinions on the internet.
You don't have opinions, do you?
Sometimes. I have very big opinions.
Never seen any of those opinions. And I certainly never disagreed with any of them.
Never.
Sometimes. But, that's what people do when they disagree. They're still mates,
yeah,
innit?
Most of the time, yeah, hopefully.
Well, unless they really like the Daily Mail, in which case you probably have.
Well, I'm sorry, yeah. Just as a warning to all the Daily Mail readers out there, we're not going to get on.
No, none of us will get on with you, Daily Mail readers. Sorry. I did try, but then you said I don't like black people. It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Oops.
I can't. We can no longer be friends. Jeremy Corbyn's a cunt. Yeah, all right then. But never mind. Brilliant stuff. Oh, also, give a shout out to Chapter Arts.
Yes.
Because if people are in the Cardiff area, whereabouts can it be found?
It's in Canton. It's in West Cardiff. But yeah, come to chapter because we've got some bloody great stuff on. Like I say, we've got festivals in the autumn. We've got so many festivals. We've got Italian festivals. We've got African festivals. There's all kinds of things going on. But also, I should also say, if you thought Flash Gordon was bad, you should see some of the shit that Nico and Joe put out once a month.
Who's that?
Oh, there's this fantastic thing, Glenn. It's called Bad Film Club.
Never heard of it.
No, well, you should come to one of them. You might like it. Yeah, no.
I think I know at least one.
Yeah, you might have been to one. So like I say, that's where chapter gets to completely indulge. We get to completely indulge all the worst films that have ever been made at Bad Film Club on the first Sunday of the month. And we've got Halloween special as well on the 29th. There's usually though we show really great films, and in obviously got Halloween coming up in October. In November there's some fantastic stuff, and then we've got Christmas. We're hopefully having Star Wars. Who knows if we're allowed? All that sort of business. So all kinds of things.
There we go.
There we are.
So yes, Canton in Cardiff for that stuff. Yeah. That's where you want to go.
There's exactly on the internet.
Exactly. Very, very good art centre. Certainly the best one. It's the only one I've ever been to. But it's the best art centre I've ever been in, and the food's quite nice too.
Yeah.
And they have beer. They have beer.
Oh, yeah, good beers. Yeah.
Nothing else, they have beer. Excellent stuff. If you want to find me on the old wide world of the interwebs, on Twitter, it's at Cymru Nerd Cave. For me, if you want the podcast itself, it's at BTTE Pod. If you want to find me on Facebook, it's Glenn Jakeman. If you do want to add me, though, please do send me a message, because otherwise I'm going to assume you're a porn bot and delete you. Sorry about that. If you want to find Back to the 80s on Facebook, it's facebook.com/BTTE Pod. For the forums, it's backtotheeighties.freeforums.net, and for the blog, it's backtotheeightiespodcast.blogspot.co.uk. I'm also on YouTube. It's under Cymru Nerd Cave. Expecting some stuff coming through the post, which is pretty damn cool. I don't know if I should say it. It involves Masters of the Universe, and it involves Lego, and knockoff Lego, specifically from China. All the way from China. So I may be putting a video of that if it comes. I'm sure it will come at the weekend. So we'll see on that one. The outro this week is obviously from Queen. It is Flash, the theme from Flash, with all the lovely sound bites that we did mention. And the close down this week comes from, because Claire and me are here, HTV Wales from the 27th of June 1985. And he even says Nostach at the end.
Aww.
So you can get a bit of Welsh language. Not HTV West, HTV Wales. It'd be nice on YouTube if people made the distinction. It'd be a lot easier for me. Claire, it's been a pleasure having you on. We will have you on again very soon, because I think once a month we're going to try and get you on if we can.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Talk about an 80s film, because I think at one point we do need to do Footloose. We need to see it again first. And of course we said things like Highlander we want to talk about as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And Legend of the Overfiend, why not? Let's do it. I'm saying, Claire, it's been an absolute pleasure. Say bye-bye to the listeners.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, listeners. Thanks for listening for another week. We'll be back again very soon. Bye-bye for now.
Hello, on the Sunday programme this week I'll have two guests who need very little introduction, though it's rare indeed to see them in the studio together, Edward Heath and Tony Benn. They'll be discussing their parties, their leaders and the state of the nation. So join me for the Sunday programme on Sunday at 8:30 on TVAM.
Well, there we end our programmes for this Saturday night on HTV Wales. Before we leave you, the weather forecast for tonight and daytime tomorrow. Well, cloud with some rain and hill fog in South Wales will move northeast during the night, with drier weather extending from the west later. Daytime Sunday will start mostly dry and bright, but further outbreaks of rain will spread from the southwest during the late morning and early afternoon. Temperatures overnight around 14 degrees centigrade, 57 degrees Fahrenheit, will only rise to around 18 degrees centigrade, 65 degrees Fahrenheit tomorrow, and the winds will be light and variable. Well, a quick mention now of some of the programmes you can see tomorrow night here with us on HTV Wales, starting at 7:15 with Winner Takes All with Jimmy Tarbuck. At 7:45, Murder, She Wrote. This week, Angela Lansbury stars in Murder to a Jazz Beat. At 9 o'clock, we continue our drama series Connie, and then at 10 o'clock, Tales of the Unexpected. And this week, Joan Hackett stars in Scrimshaw. Programmes to look forward to tomorrow night when Margaret will be here. But from me, all that's left for me to do is to take a last look at the clock. And with the time at 26.5 minutes to 1 o'clock, this is Arvon Haynes Davis wishing you a very good night. No star.